There is a story that goes beyond the limits of reason that lives in the shadows of secret experiments and the search for the unknown. It's a story that hangs on the edge of possibility and falls into the abyss of human endurance. Imagine that you are on an exciting trip with bizarre enigma stories, where the line between fact and fiction starts to get fuzzy. What if I told you there's an experiment that tests the very limits of our mind and a story that makes us question everything we think we know? The Russian sleep experiment is a thrilling story that takes place in a lonely Russian research center during the secretive Cold War. Dr. Ivanov and 4 test subjects are about to go through a strange experiment that could change science and make it very hard for people to understand. In the late 1940s, researchers in the Soviet Union developed a medication known as Pervitin to promote wakefulness among individuals throughout the war. The Germans possessed a substance known as Pervitin, which bore a resemblance to this particular drug. However, the Americans and Britons employed benzedrine and amphetamine for their purposes. The Soviets aimed to develop a medication that would not cause severe physical or mental exhaustion after 3 consecutive days of intense usage. 5 people were asked to stay in a test area that had dried food, a bed with no sheets, running water, and a toilet. The researchers have microphones that let them listen to the subjects and cams that let them watch the subjects. Only 5-inch thick glass windows let light in from the outside. These windows aren't even good enough to see a shadow through. The 5 men seem happy for the first 3 days after the scene is set. The experts are happy that the gas is doing its job. The people who are being studied agree to try to stay awake for 30 days. They are told that if they can make it through, they will be freed. Things get a little darker around day 4, though, when the subjects talk about war and the horrible things they have seen. The guys start talking to themselves and things that aren't there on day 5. This is a sign of psychosis. They start to worry about each other and whisper stories into the mics about the other people being studied. On day 9, when one man started yelling and howling like a banshee, people were more sure that the gas was making him sick. After a while, there was a strange quiet. The cameras did not show the men. Sure enough, they were still alive because the oxygen levels showed 5 guys breathing. Where were they though? They had to open the room up so they could test the microphones. One person said they didn't want to be freed anymore, which could mean they were hooked on the gas. The experts opened the vents to let fresh air get rid of the remaining stimulant. Another scream from the men, begging for more gas. One Russian person thought the guys were really hooked. They were shocked to find that one man was dead when they opened the doors on day 15. The men had very bad wounds, and the trial was a horrible example of how dangerous it is to not get enough sleep during war. For their study, the researchers looked at a group of men who had had horrifying surgery that removed their skin and muscles from their chests to show their lungs. The researchers called for help while the men were eating the treats. Soldiers came to help remove the subjects and found that some of the victims had killed themselves after the event. After the subjects were taken out, doctors gave them enough morphine to put a Canadian moose to sleep, but the men kept fighting like they were wild animals. One person passed out and his heart stopped beating, while another man kept yelling gas. During the terrible show, some bones were broken in a doctor. The other 3 were put in a secure prison after being sedated and strapped down. The researchers talked about the idea that the Nazis, the British, and the Americans might have done the right thing by giving their men great cranks. Surgeons tried to put back into one man the innards and viscera parts that were missing, but he almost broke through his restraints. He died right away after the anesthetic was given to him. 9 bones were broken and muscles were torn all over his body, according to the exam. When they tried to fix the next man, they did a great job. They sewn up his broken parts and put skin grafts on him. The brain surgeon was proud of his work, but only his own work. A nurse said that the beast had been smiling at her during the surgery, and she wondered how men's sex drives can still work even when things are bad. Someone who used to work for the KGB said that the men should be put back on the gas because it seems like all of their problems start when they start to quit. The men were fine once they got back on the gas. There was a strange event, though, when the EEG monitor showed crazy brain activity and one man stopped moving. Finally, the last man went back to the study room, where 3 researchers were waiting for him. The other man looked like he was dead on the bed. The commander and then the subject were both shot by one of the experts. The Russian sleep experiment is a made-up story about a secret experiment in which soldiers are made to stay awake for 15 days, which kills several of them. Some people think that the men were tricked by a gas that could keep them awake for 15 days and make them hate themselves like zombies. But no history or science makes sense to back up this claim. The experiment was done by police officers who were given something that made them stay awake longer, like candy. And even the most dedicated ice fiend couldn't stay awake for 15 days. Those troops who were high probably would have only been awake for 24 to 36 hours. The Pentagon has also looked into this, and they have found that men will make a lot of mistakes if they are made to stay awake for more than 48 hours. They will also become slow and useless as soldiers. The Russian sleep experiment is not thought to have anything to do with Morvan syndrome, a sickness that can lead to severe delirium and insomnia. Militaries use not getting enough sleep as a form of torture because it can make a person half crazy. There is addictive gas, a heart rug, and reanimation in the story, which makes it seem impossible. Although not bad, the story could have been better. Discover more intriguing stories and human mind secrets on our channel. Subscribe now to explore the mysterious. Join our search for knowledge and suspense to reveal hidden mysteries.